Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to GPI's Business Tube on Federal Contracting, our Lunch and Learn webinar series. And today we're going to discuss with a couple of our students who have actually gone through the process. And we have Mr. Jamal Dismuke, and he's going to introduce himself. He's one of our millenniums who've actually gone through all three tracks. And then we have Miss Vicki Evans, who's the CEO of CORD, and she's currently an 8A participant, and I wanted her to share her experience on what it really has been like in transitioning from the commercial world to federal contracting world. And I'd like for Jamal to provide his insight and input on what it's like being a millennium and learning about this world as a contractor. So I'm going to start with Jamal. If Jamal, you can introduce yourself and just give us a little insight on what you've learned thus far. And go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Jamal Dismuke. I'm the CEO of Paradigm Management and Consultants. We specialize in administrative management with 3 core service areas: administrative services, training services, and legal services. The biggest benefit I got from completing the GPI series has been the step-by-step process that Ms. Paula and the instructors take you through, from first starting your businesses, learning your NAICS codes, and then taking those NAICS codes and building a business model and making sure that business model is built in a way that allows you to have a strategic plan to go after winning federal opportunities. So overall, it's been a great process because it allows you to kind of develop at your own pace. You don't really feel like you're overwhelmed with a lot of information that's thrown at you sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Evans, can you give us a little background on your business and who you are?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vicki Evans, and I am the president and CEO of CORD. CORD stands for Connect One Realty Group. I've actually been in business since 2006 as an owner of the company. However, prior to real estate, I was a network engineer with AT&T for 11 years, and I held positions such as project manager, network engineering, and marketing manager. But I felt like there was a ceiling there, and I never saw any closure on the things that I was doing. I made good money, but it just did not fulfill me. And so I actually started doing real estate in various capacities, from an investor to running a new homes community and to moving into the REO, or default services, or foreclosure market. With that, there was 2008, everybody heard about the housing bubble. And I was very successful with my company during that time, where we saw great success. However, that market started to decline. So during that period, I decided to pursue my 8A and work with, I had heard a lot about working in the government sector, but because I had been so busy in the real estate market, I didn't really see a need to do that. So in 2015, I did obtain my 8A. So when I came to the Government Procurement Innovators Institute, I already had my 8A. However, there was a lot I was missing. So I did not have a mentor or anyone to guide me through the process. So, okay, now I have my 8A. Now what? What do I do with it? How do I use it to, become more successful? How do I use it to increase my revenue? Because on the real estate side, my revenue went way down, and I was struggling with trying to keep my staff and keep my company afloat. So since coming over to work with Paula, and also I went through the level 5 class with Stacy Mollison, I have gained additional knowledge as to how to maneuver through many of the systems and databases that you will be utilizing working with the government sector. I've learned how to develop market strategies, and I have an MBA. And I have it's a concentration in contracts. So I felt like, oh, I've got my business plan here. I'm telling everybody how wonderful I am and how successful I have been, and I don't have a lot of debt. But I didn't realize there were some key components missing in my business plan. So Paula was very instrumental in helping me to see that and also to revise that. Since then, I have been meeting with someone who has become my mentor.
Yes.
And that was recently approved.
Yes.
I'm so grateful about that. And I am now working on my first joint venture and bidding on some contracts. So that's just a little bit about me.
Oh, that's great. A great story. Coming from the commercial world and getting into this contracting, what has been the major adjustment that you've had to take just to learn how to adapt to this language?
Is that a question for me, Paula?
Yes, it
Is that you? Okay. Well, the biggest adjustment for me is I had to tell, and I'm just going to say government for lack of a better word, but I had to tell them I need help. I need resources. I need financial resources. I need physical resources such as equipment and that sort of thing. So I had to learn to say, okay, help me. And you don't know what you don't know until sometimes it's too late. So I had to find out what I didn't know. And now that I know that, I feel like, okay, I could have been farther along here, but because I'm not, I'm sort of playing catch up now, which is okay too. But if you can get the training or get the information prior to, like Jamal may have, going through the system, he probably knows a lot of things that I was not privy to prior to going after my AA.
That's wonderful. Jamal,
Mhm.
because I think it truly is learning a different language. And I think the biggest challenge with commercial, it's very competitive, whereas in the government contracting world, it's public dollars, so you can follow the money and develop a serious strategic plan, so you know what contracts you're going after and who the players are. So often in the commercial world, you may not know who the players are or how much money they have to offer you. Is that correct, Vicki?
Yes, absolutely. It's totally different. And it does help being able to see the forecast and to see this is the physical year, and this is what I need to be preparing for. This is what I need to get my team ready for. So it absolutely does help.
Jamal, you just graduated, what was it, last year or 2 years ago?
2014, May 2nd, 2014.
And now you're getting your master's?
Yes, in public administration, December 10th.
What has been your experience as you relate to your peers and getting the contracts and during this process? What made you think that you wanted to be an entrepreneur at your young age?
A couple different things. After graduating, I'm sure maybe Ms. Vicky can relate. After you graduate, you have all these opportunities, but you're not necessarily qualified to do them. So I was working temp and I would get laid off every couple of months and I really didn't have any stable form of income. So finally I just said, okay, well, what can I do to better myself to make sure in 30 years I don't have to necessarily work for someone? So when I heard about the opportunity to join GPI, I said, if they'll teach me how to build my business, develop a kind of strategic service plan and the marketing plan, then why not pursue that opportunity? And with my peers, they're all very excited about what I'm doing. It's just sometimes they don't understand the process of how it's being done per se.
Are they understanding that you are actually owning your business, or are they working? What have they done since they've graduated from school? What's
Um, well, primarily, most of them are in graduate school, like myself. They aren't necessarily working. They're looking for opportunities to kind of get in their field. But I'm telling them, listen, the job market is pretty bad. So why not go out and try to start something for yourself and make sure that you're able to take care of yourself in the years to come without depending on someone to determine how much you get paid, how much control you have over your career. It's really about empowering yourself so you can have the ability to move how you want to move, and that's important for me.
education is definitely key uh, too in this component. You need to definitely have the degrees and the theory behind the practicality, and that's what we're trying to bring here at GPI is more practicality.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we're teaching, I don't believe anyone else is teaching, and giving these business owners the exposure on how to do it. So that was my whole concept of making sure that we can hand walk businesses through this process, because it really is learning a different language. And just like I was when I started a business, you don't know what you don't know. So hopefully this process is going to assist you guys in learning based on some of the hard lessons that we've gone through. Miss Vicky, how long did it take you to complete your 8A application, and what was that process like for you?
It took about, I would say it took about 6 months to get my 8A. Now, I want to say that my situation was a little bit out of the norm because I've been told that that's pretty quick, or that was rather quick. I had some personal issues going on, family issues going on, that prevented me from really focusing on obtaining my 8A and then working my 8A during that first year. And so the process, and I think one reason why it went pretty smoothly for me is that when you set up a new company, you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Everything from your EIN, making sure your tax returns are filed, making sure that you have, meeting minutes, or if you have a board of directors. But if you have everything, just keep up with it. Make sure that I'm going to do that later. No, you make sure that you do everything right the first time. That way, when someone asks you for it, you have it. I keep a binder. I had a binder at that time that I kept that had everything in it, so that when SBA, when they requested certain documents, I had it readily available to them, which made the process a little bit quicker for me because I had everything. I think during that whole time, they may have requested 2 additional documents from me, and some of the documents that they requested I had already sent to them, but I just resent it to them. So again, I think my takeaway from it was that just make sure whenever you start your company, make sure that you are doing everything appropriately as far as, keeping up with your state registration, with Secretary of State, or if your county requires a business license, make sure you do that, because they'll come back and ask for those things. So, yeah. So it took about 6 months for me.
6 months. And what typically happens, and I see it, I used to see it so often at SBA. What happens in that 8A application process, you submit all the documentation, and once they receive it, they're on a clock. They have 15 days to go through that application and look for any deficiencies. And typically they'll return that whole package to you with a whole laundry list of questions, and people begin to freak out over the questions. And I tell people not to freak out over the questions. You just take each one of them and answer them separately because they're just doing their due diligence. Um, I, what I've often seen with people getting into the program is people have told them to get their certification. And my whole thing is make sure you understand the game before you get in there because the clock starts ticking. And that's the only program that has a term limit to it. Now, if you're in the hub zone or the women's zone, small business, there's no term limits to that program. Do you feel the pressure now that you're in the 8A with the clock?
I do. I do. And like I said, I had some personal things going on in my family that sort of took me away from working in my business. So I feel like that was a year that I got behind. The 8A program is 9 years. So you have to do whatever you can and give whatever you can during that time frame. And typically they say that it takes about 2 years to get your first contract. Well, I wanted to be ahead of the game. I wanted to have my first contract, and you do have some that do get theirs in their first year, first 6 months, and even as soon as they get their 8A. So I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball, as they say, but I do feel that clock running out,
Well,
ticking rather.
you have a game plan now, so and
I do.
as what I've seen on the inside was that typically is year 4 or 5 when these 8As start winning contract. And based on a lot of the databases that I've demonstrated to the students, you can actually see when people begin to get into the game and follow their footprint. My whole thing is there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's been consistent with a lot of small businesses of getting out of their own way and their comfort zone. Your background was real estate. So if a contract came to you or either Jamal that had something to do with animal plant treatment, and it was just saying, I'm going to win that, give this contract to you because you're part of the program and the staff. We already have the staff on those contracts. Would you decline that contract?
No.
No?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
And that's where I think a lot of small businesses, they are driven by what they know. And for me, I can run any business. And once you have that shift, then it doesn't really matter. It's about relationships. It's about strategically understanding how to target these contracts. I do have a question from one of the participants. Someone said, no, they would not deny that contract. So it's making sure that you have the infrastructure in place. So I'm so glad that you reiterated that we have the back office, the tax returns, the financial statements. And I also encourage businesses to take classes on that because a lot of times small businesses start their business on their skill set and don't understand what a profit and loss statement is. How do I make money or lose money?
And Paul, if I can just add, it's almost like, although you're going to be the owner of your company, you're going to have transferable skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I started off at AT&T as a network engineer, business operations. They sent me to engineering school. Well, I took those transferable skills and brought them over to my company, and that's why I was able to maintain the success that I have had with my own company. So you take those transferable skills. Then when you get your 8A, although I have a real estate firm, there are other things that I can do. I can do project management. Okay, I can use all types of software. So I can do conference room planning. I can do janitorial services. So you are able to diversify the things that you can do.
So how do
which
you,
broadens your portfolio.
how do you transfer those? I mean, how do you know how to transfer those skills if you've never ran a business? How would you know what I need to do to and those skills? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and normally they give you a description, and for those who don't know, there's a description of the services to be provided. And that's something you're going to have to look at and say, well, is this something that I can do, or is there someone I can partner with to do it?
Yeah, that is the key. And Jamal, what have you found to be your biggest shift in your mindset in as you when you started the business?
Where did I start?
Yes.
November 11th, 2015, last year.
And what has been the shift for you in adapting to running a business and thinking like a CEO?
Well, the biggest thing for me is finding the correct and the most valuable team players to put on my team to make sure that when we go after an opportunity, we're qualified and we're ready to actually win that opportunity, if that makes sense.
Uh,
Um, I try pretty hard not to make sure I get the best people on my team who have the skill sets that I need for the contract,
okay.
opportunity that I'm pursuing.
And Vicky, with you been in business as long as you've been in, what have you found to be your biggest challenge in running a business, a small business?
Interesting. I would say one of the challenges I have met with is employee retention, because some people are going to come. You're a small business, and some people who are going to work for you and say, you know what, I can do that, and they're going to want to take your client. They going to want to do what you're doing, and they say, oh, okay, I can have success in doing this too. So you've got to figure out how to protect yourself. The other thing for me, I was brought up saying, okay, no debt, no debt, no debt, pay for everything with cash. And I've done that. I've had good credit, but my mindset has always been, don't borrow money, especially if you can pay for it yourself. Well, that's something else that I've had to learn and has been a challenge for me. It's not about just using my own money. It's about using someone else's money.
Very good. I think for me, the biggest challenge I found was I wasn't prepared for the responsibility. Meaning, when I got that first $1 million contract, I had employees. And that as I now was responsible for not only the employees, but their families and payroll. That was my biggest stress factor in running that business, making sure that I had enough money so that I would never miss a payroll, because I didn't want to be in that position. I have a question from Diane, and she's from Pittsburgh. So welcome, Diane. Her question or her statement is, one of the greatest lessons learned is just that, thinking like a CEO. The transition from the employee mindset to CEO mindset is definitely necessary shift. Mm-hmm. And she is absolutely correct, because as I coach these thousands of businesses, I think that's been, especially as they've gone through this boot camp, the biggest shift of people thinking that they don't literally have to do the work, that they hire people, and understanding how America makes money. You make money off of hiring people. So that's been my biggest lesson. Would you like to, we're down to the closure of today's Lunch and Learn, and I'd like to thank you, Ms. Evans and Mr. Jamal, for taking your time. And would you like to give our guests any last words of wisdom? Anything you'd like to share? I'll start with you, Jamal.
Well, the biggest piece of advice I can give anyone interested in pursuing federal contracts is to be open to learning. about this sector, and don't be so focused on what you necessarily can do, but focus on what you potentially can do in the future with your network of resources that you have. And don't focus on the now, focus on the future, and make sure you build a business that is sustainable for today and tomorrow. That's my best piece of advice to anyone who wants to get involved with GPI.
Thank you. Ms. Evans.
I guess what I would say is that when I got into this program, I was thinking, oh, I got my 8A and I'm walking on water and I'm good. I'm in that small percentage of people who have that 8A. Well, once you get it, you have to work for it. And even before you get your 8A, you're going to have to get out there and network and meet people and find out who the movers and shakers and who the contracting officers are and who your state representatives are and the people who can help you along the way for your business. So it's not just, how they say sometimes, putting a yard sign in the yard and then the people will come. That's not necessarily true. You're going to have to work your business.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, we are starting have the early registration for the live boot camp classes starting October 8th. The last date for early registration is August 29th. For those that are in other states, we will probably be rolling out the online boot camp in September. So please check back at our website, www.gpiwin.com, for any updates. And thank you for your participation. And I look forward to seeing you next week. We will have Serena Thomas. She's going to discuss the product sides and how you can get engaged in bidding and learning. She's going to roll out a curriculum on what's the process and how do you position your business to win contracts from the product side. So thank you again, Jamal. Thank you, Vicki, and I look forward to speaking with or seeing everyone next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.